Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I am going to be doing another try a chapter tag Unhaul edition. So I have done one of these in the past. I did one a few months ago, but essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to select 5 books from my shelves that I'm not sure if I actually want to read. I'm going to try the first chapter of each one and then I'm going to decide whether I will be keeping them or unhauling them. Now the last time I did this, it did also turn into a trash my TBR because at the end of the video I did put a poll in the cards for all of the books that I was unsure about whether I wanted to keep to let you guys vote on which ones I should keep and which ones I should unhaul. Now at the moment, as I'm just filming the introduction to this video, I cannot tell you whether it will have that trash my TBR element, but there is a possibility that at the end of this video you will get to decide on a few of these books on whether I keep them or whether I unhaul them. Now the reason that I am doing this at this present time is that I am moving, as you may know. Now at the time that this video is actually going to go up, I will have already moved, but essentially packing is hard. I've packed up very few books and I already have a lot of boxes, so I thought this would be a great time to do another version of this tag and see whether there will be any books that I'm taking with me that I shouldn't be. But before we get into this video, I would just like to quickly mention that this video does contain a paid sponsorship from Skillshare. I have once again been invited to work with Skillshare and I am very excited about that because I personally think that Skillshare is a really good resource. If you are unaware, Skillshare is an online learning platform with over 25,000 classes that allows people to learn new skills or brush up on skills that they may already have. Now there are an incredibly wide range of classes on offer. There is calligraphy, technology, design, anything that you can think of, there will be a Skillshare class on it. Now there are quite a few Skillshare classes that I'm interested in and ones that I have been taking, including ones on things like productivity, photography and marketing. However, the category that I have been particularly interested in recently is interior design because that is something that I really struggle with. As you may have noticed, I am somebody who likes a lot of things, so when it comes to things like designing a space, I really struggle because I want that space to represent everything I'm interested in, when really I should be sticking to a theme, a purpose or an aesthetic to make the room look nice, which is ultimately what I want. Now Skillshare is also incredibly affordable. An annual subscription averages at under $10 per month, but understandably a paid subscription is a bit of a commitment when you're not sure what you're getting into, which is why I'm incredibly happy to tell you that in my description box I do have a link that will give people who click on it 2 months premium membership to Skillshare, which will give you unlimited access to any and all of Skillshare's classes. Now obviously this is a really good deal. 2 months free trial is amazing and it will definitely give you time to explore Skillshare and see if there is anything on there that you are interested in or whether there are any classes on things that you would like to learn. So moving on to the video, the way that this video is going to be structured is that we will have this introduction section where I will show you the books that I have selected that I'm going to be sampling a chapter from. I will then go and read the chapters over the next undetermined period of time, and when I've read a chapter from each of the books I will come back and update you on my thoughts on that chapter and give you my decision on whether I'm interested and I want to keep it or whether it's time to unhaul it. I will then come back at the end and do a little wrap up and let you know for sure which of the books that I am going to be unhauling, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there may also be a poll if there are some that I'm unsure about and would like to ask your guys' opinion on which ones you think I should keep and which I should unhaul. So getting into the books, I have quite a selection for you. The first one is Start of 10 by David Nichols. Now there is a film that has been adapted from this book and I absolutely love the movie adaptation of this. As well as that, One Day by David Nichols is my favourite adult contemporary story. I absolutely love that book, and so I think at the moment I do own every book by David Nichols aside from the one that has just been released, but I have yet to read any apart from One Day. And while I do really love the movie adaptation of this, I don't know if the storyline is something I would be interested in book form. So from what I remember of the movie, the plot of this is that we follow a boy who has just gone to university and I think he's interested in a girl who is on the panel for the UK TV quiz show University Challenge, and so he also ends up on the panel and it is about University Challenge but also it is a contemporary romance story. I really love David Nichols' writing. I think I've just really included this in this video so that I can read the first chapter and then maybe push this book up my TBR a little bit, as well as the rest of David Nichols' books. But you know, I may not like the first chapter, we'll have to see. One that I don't know very much about at all is Blood and Ice by Robert Marcello, and this was included in the video that I did quite a few months ago now that was called These Books Will Self-Destruct in 12 Months, where I selected some books that I have decided that if I have still not read them in 12 months time, I will be unhauling them. Now this is one that I got from a charity shop, because the charity shops in my area tend to have an offer that is like 3 books for £1, and if I ever picked up 2 books that I wanted, I would always just pick up one that sounded madly interesting so that I could get that offer. Now I thought this was going to be a vampire or a werewolf story, but when I made that other video I did look into it a little bit more, and I believe that this is a story about a couple that are chained together at the bottom of the ocean that are recovered. Now I don't know where it goes from there. I don't know if it's a scientific story, I don't know if it's like paranormal, I have no idea. A lot of people have told me that this is quite boring, so I think we'll see from the first chapter whether this is a book that I'm going to enjoy. Another book that I bought on a similar offer, and another book in my These Books Will Self-Destruct in 12 Months video, is The Lost Book of Salem by Catherine Howe. Now this is a book that appealed to me for some reason, and I have been reluctant to unhaul it for some reason. Now when I did that other video, people gave me a little bit of information on this, but I'm not sure what this book is. So the plot of this is that we follow a woman who is clearing out her grandmother's attic when she finds a letter from 1692, which is a time when the witch trials were ongoing in Salem. I think she time travels back to that time, and then there is a plot hatching in Salem where she finds a magic book and something happens. So I don't know if this story is historical fiction, I don't know if it's magical, I really don't know, but I think if it is fantastical, it is not the same type of fantastical story that I normally read, so I think I'm a little bit concerned about the writing style in this one, and obviously reading the first chapter will give me a good feel for that. I then have a couple of young adult paranormal stories, I think. Now this is a story that I thought was a typical young adult paranormal story. However, when I looked at the blurb, it follows a boy who is a replacement, which seems to be a similar thing as a changeling, and he was swapped with another baby at birth, but now something is going on in the world and it's making it difficult for him to survive. That's all I know about this one. You guys told me in whatever other video I featured this in that it is surprisingly good, but it just still doesn't really appeal to me, so I kind of want to see what's going on here. And then lastly, a book that is very much a typical young adult paranormal romance as far as I can tell is Unearthly by Cynthia Hand. Don't know much about this apart from it is a young adult paranormal, and it features somebody who is part angel, and apparently her purpose is to save a boy. Because of course it is. If the writing is good in this, I may keep it, but I'm not really interested in reading mediocre young adult paranormal romance at this stage in my life. So those are the 5 books that we are going to be sampling at the time that I'm filming this introduction. It is a little bit in advance of when I plan to post this, so I will be checking in like vlog style clips to let you know what I think of each chapter over a certain period of time. I don't know at this moment how long that will be, and letting you know what I think about the first chapters of these books. Hey guys, so it has been a while since I filmed the intro to this video. My idea when I filmed the intro was that this video was going to be great. I could read a chapter every now and then this video would be ready ahead of time. That isn't the case, so as you can see from the background, I have moved since the intro clip, but I have also just read the first chapter of Starter for 10 by David Nichols, and I have no room to hold it. I think I'm going to be keeping this one. The first chapter is 13 or 14 pages, but it definitely has the same kind of vibe and the same kind of tone as One Day by David Nichols does, which I think I mentioned is my favourite adult contemporary of all time, even though it's not technically a contemporary because it does start out in the 80s. But yeah, I didn't love the first chapter, like it wasn't instantly hooked because it starts off in a very different location to where the rest of the story goes. I know from seeing the movie, but we start off with a boy who is just finishing his last day at work because he is about to go to university, and he goes to have like his last day with his friends, and neither of his friends are going to university. One of them is kind of working class and never expected to be any more than working class, if that makes sense, and the other one kind of purposefully failed his exams, or he was struggling and didn't pass his exams, so they will both be staying in the town that they live, which is Southend in England, and he is going off to university, and he has all these grand ideas of going to university, like reading literature and turning into this like sophisticated young man because he's at uni. The thing about this that I didn't know, this was published in 2003, like I thought it was 2000s, but it seems to be set in the 80s or early 90s, I would guess that. I'm not 100% sure, which makes sense in the terms of me having seen the film, but I didn't realize that it was set in the past, which if this was published in 2003, then it will be. He does mention that he gets his O-levels when he's 16. In the UK, they have been replaced with GCSEs, and that happened way before 2003. So yeah, not sure exactly when this is set. It didn't mention a year, but it is 80s, 90s. But I think I'm going to enjoy this. Probably not as much as One Day, because I don't think there's as much of like a relationship aspect. Like One Day follows two people for 25 years, I think, and the ups and downs of their friendship and everything that goes on with that, which is a type of story that I really love. I can't lie, you guys know I'm secretly trash for romance in books, so I don't think there's too much of a romance aspect in this, although there definitely is one. I think the whole plot is that he tries to get on University Challenge to impress a girl, but it's been a while since I watched the movie. When I do eventually read this, I will rewatch the movie because I do really love the movie. But I think that this one is a keeper, and it is currently, I think we're on, it must be nearly 11 p.m. Yeah, it's 10:50, so I will just read the first chapter of one more book and then I will go to bed and pick up the rest tomorrow. But I'm gonna go read the first chapter of The Lost Book of Salem by Catherine Howe. I'm actually really excited to read the first chapter of this. You think I mentioned in the intro that this is a book that I've had for a long time, and I'm very reluctant to let go of it for some reason. There's something that drew me to this and something that is keeping it in my possession. So I'm very excited to read the first chapter of this, and I really do hope I love it. If I don't, I still don't know if I'm going to be able to let this book go, because I don't know why I have this book and why I just can't let it go, but I can't. So hopefully it's a fate thing and it's going to be really good, and it's not just me being weird about possessions, which I do sometimes. So I'll go read the first chapter of this and I'll let you know how I feel. Hey guys, so I just finished the first chapter of The Lost Book of Salem by Catherine Howe. I did not finish this last night. It's a whole new day now. I read the prologue last night, and then I fully intended to come back and read the first chapter, but I was just really tired, so I went to bed. But I've read the first chapter of this and I like it, but it's interesting because the prologue, we start off in Salem. The plot of this is that we follow a woman who finds a letter in her grandmother's possessions, and I think she time travels back to Salem. So interestingly enough, I did a video not too long ago, was it the spooky books, all the spooky books I own, and in that book was the discovery of witches, and a lot of people explained the plot to me because I didn't know very much about a discovery of witches in that video, and what they said sounds an awful lot like this. Like, this is a American version of a discovery of witches, because the discovery of witches is set in Oxford and this is set in Boston. So the prologue of this is set in Salem. It is a man who, I think it's his daughter, who is sick, and he asks a woman to come and take a look at her, and I'm assuming that that is a woman who is a witch or somebody who will be accused of witchcraft, but essentially everything he's done to try and save his daughter is not working, so he invites this woman round. We then move into chapter 1, where we are following a woman called Connie who goes to Harvard University, and she is just about to sit her oral examination to become, I think it's to become a professor, I think it's for her doctorate, and she's specialising in history, she's a historian. I really liked the bit that was set in Salem. I thought that the writing was really good, I thought it was really atmospheric, and I was like, wow, I was right about this, I'm gonna love it. And then I read the actual first chapter, and I was right about the writing in this. Like, in the introduction I said that even if this story is something that I think I will enjoy, I don't think the writing will be what I'm used to, and it's not. This is very much a literary fiction style writing, and it's kind of pretentious and overworked. We have this woman in Harvard, and like in the first page or the second page of the first chapter, it goes into her appearance, and it's like she had soft brown eyelashes and the arch of her brows swept across her forehead. Like, kind of how, I'm gonna say like older, not like super old, but early 2000s adult, just general adult books were written, where you enter a scene and you have the setting and then it's the main character and it goes into like a full description of the main character. It's like traditional, like really standard storytelling. So the writing it's hard because in that prologue I absolutely loved it, but then in the first chapter I was a little bit like but then plot wise I'm definitely intrigued. As I said, she's just about to sit her exam. The exam does take place in the first chapter and she's asked a question about the history of witchcraft. Interestingly as well, right at the beginning of the book there is an author's note, and Catherine Howe herself is the descendant of 2 women who were executed for witchcraft in Salem. So I think I'm going to keep this one. I'm thinking the reason that I'm going to keep this, even though the writing in the first chapter I wasn't too sure about, is that, as I said, I believe that the plot of this is that she time travels back to Salem, and if that does happen then I think the writing will be a little bit more like the prologue, and that bit was like really intriguing. But then also, as I said, even though the writing was putting me off a little bit in the first chapter, I did become a little bit intrigued about the plot as I was getting to the end of that first chapter. So that's this one done. I think I'm keeping this one. That's 2 for 2 that I'm keeping. So the point of this video is to unhaul things and we're not doing very well. So I don't have it off my bookshelf yet, but I think I'm going to go for Unearthly by Cynthia Han next and read the first chapter of that, because out of the 5 that I selected, that one is the one that I'm pretty sure I'm not going to enjoy. Like, I would enjoy the least out of the 5 that I selected straight off. So I'll go read the first chapter of that one and let you know what I think. Hey, so I finished the first chapter of Unearthly and I remembered when I was reading it why I shouldn't have made this video and why I just generally don't make these videos, or why these videos are a bad idea for me. I'm just indecisive, you know, like me as a person, I'm indecisive. I can't make a decision to save my life, and I have like major like FOMO is part of my personality, and as well as that, like I don't feel like a first chapter is giving a book enough of a chance, you know what I'm saying? So I think I'm gonna put this one on the maybe pile essentially. With this one, again, I read the prologue and the first chapter. I admit in the prologue I had major yikes because it reminded me a lot of Fallen by Lauren Kay, and I read that series. But then chapter 1 I was thinking, yep, just a standard paranormal romance, young adult, and I think it is just a standard young adult paranormal romance. I should probably unhaul it, but I don't know. I got into it. I got to the end of the chapter. I wanted to know what was going on. Sue me guys, I'm trash. I wanted to know what happens next. So the plot of this is we follow a girl and she is having visions. She is part angel, I think she's half angel, and they live like humans, so it's not like they're fallen angels and have come directly from heaven or anything. She was born to a human father and a angel mother. A mother is over 100 but looks about 40, and the main character is 16. Angels seem to have a life's purpose, and when you get to a certain age you will start having visions about your life's purpose, and then you have to go find it and solve whatever that is. That's pretty much all I gathered from this. Angels have kind of superhuman strength. They're a little bit faster, a little bit stronger than ordinary people, and it's going to be a paranormal romance. So for now I'm going to put this as a maybe. Essentially the crux of this video is that none of these books that I've picked for this video, I'm not excited to read any of them. Just looking at them on my shelves, I don't feel like I will ever be like, I want to pick this book and read this book. But that doesn't mean that I won't really enjoy the book, because there's tons of books that I've not been excited about and I've picked up on a whim, like The Furies by Katie Lowe that I picked up on a whim at a charity shop because it was an ARC, and I think most recent purchase came up on Bookopoly and I read it. I didn't really want to because the only reason I picked it up was because it was an ARC, and I was like, haven't heard of this, don't really know anything about it, the plot seems okay, and that is now like one of my favorite books of the year. My issue with stuff like this is that I'm not excited to read any of these books starting off with. Reading the first chapter is giving me a taste of the writing style, but the first chapter of a book is kind of set up before the plot even starts, so it pretty much is just an introduction into the writing style. And yeah, so maybe for this, then maybe a poll in this video. I'm giving this one a hard maybe, because I'm indecisive and I can't do this. So I think now I'm gonna go for a bath and I will take one of the books with me and read a chapter in the bath. Good news is, well, good news from my indecisiveness is that if I drop one of them in the bath, then that's just a straight unhaul, and I don't need to make a decision. So I have 2 books left. One of them is Blood and Ice and the other one is The Replacement. So I think I'll take Blood and Ice into the bath because I'll be in there for a little while. I'll also take the book that I'm actually currently reading just generally. Yeah, because I'll be in the bath for a while and I feel like Blood and Ice will be a little bit longer chapter wise than The Replacement, because I think Blood and Ice is adult and I've heard it's quite dry and scientific and slow, and The Replacement is another young adult paranormal. So I'll go do that and I'll come chat back with you after my bath. Hey guys, I am back from my bath. It is getting quite late now, so I'm looking a bit sleepy. I'm feeling a bit sleepy, but I didn't just take one book to the bath. I said I was taking Blood and Ice, but I did also take The Replacement by Brenny Ovenoff as well. So I have read the first chapter in both of these. So the first one that I read was Blood and Ice by Robert Masello. Now, I didn't really know anything about this. I think I mentioned that in the intro, but on the back it says some interesting things. It says it's a supernatural thriller, and it also says if H.G. Wells, Stephanie Meyer and Michael Crichton co-wrote a novel, which is interesting. And then it also says something about vampirism, doomed romance and Antarctic adventure. So I read the prologue and the first chapter of this. It was around 20 pages, but it was more than I've read in the others because the font is a lot smaller in this one. But I was actually really intrigued by this. Once again, it was the prologue that sucked me in, but I do think that out of the 5 that I've sampled a chapter from, this is the one that I'm most interested in, and out of the 5, if I had to pick up one on interest, it would be this one. So we start off this novel in the prologue, and the prologue is set in the past, and that is in 1856, and we follow a man and a woman on a ship. The woman isn't well, similar to the start of The Lost Book of Salem actually, and the man is trying to cure her. She's not doing so good, but they've paid for passage onto the ship and it's a bit of a dodgy ship, and with the woman being ill, nobody really trusts them. So they find something suspicious in the man's trunk and they chain the man and the woman together and they put them overboard. Now it seems that there was something suspicious in some bottles in the trunk, and the bottles are actually mentioned in the synopsis, so I really want to know what they are. But then in the first chapter we come to present day, where we are following a man who is a journalist. I'm not sure what type. I'm not sure if he's like a travel journalist. His job does involve traveling, but he may be like a scientific journalist who also travels kind of thing, if you know what I mean. But he has not been working for a while. I think something bad happened to his wife, but it doesn't explain it. It's just what I gather. And his boss or his colleague comes with a job for him, and he's like, look, you can go to this really remote research location in Antarctica if you want to. So I'm assuming he goes on that, and then they find the couple. So I was really intrigued by this. The first chapter was a bit like fantasy piratey, like the prologue, and then the real first chapter was kind of paranormal detective-esque. So I'm really intrigued by this one. I'm definitely keeping this. The other one, I didn't really get a lot out of the first chapter. It was like 14 pages, but the font is really big in this, so it wasn't a lot of content. And I didn't really read a prologue in it either. And that was The Replacement. Now going into this, I said that I thought it was about some sort of changeling. It's called The Replacement and it doesn't say changeling anywhere in the synopsis, but I think it is a changeling, because the only thing I really learned in the first chapter is that this boy is a high school student. He has been replaced, or he replaced a human baby, and he doesn't like iron. At first it's blood and it's needles. There's a blood drive going on at school and he isn't taking part. Then he sees blood and it starts to affect him, and then he talks about how iron is tolerable when it's in things like cars, etc., but when it's in blood it's really overpowering. Now this, I don't really like the writing style, and I think I'm gonna unhaul this. I just wasn't really into it. I did start to feel unwell in the bath as well when I was like halfway through this. Not related to the book, it's just tainted my memory of this. Yeah, it's paranormal romance kind of thing, I guess. We've already been introduced to 2 girls in this. There's like a popular girl that he likes, and then there's a girl, something's happened to one of her friends, I think, and she's a bit of an outcast now. And I feel like, you know, he's gonna have a crush on the popular one but end up with the outcast one. So I think I'm going to unhaul this, but this I think I may also unhaul. But as this was a maybe, we are going to do a thing. So I'll do a tiny wrap up, I guess, first. So the 5 books that we have here, and they are actually probably ranked, I didn't do this on purpose, but they're probably ranked in order of how I enjoyed them, with this one being the most enjoyable and this one being the least enjoyable of the 5. This one definitely the most intriguing. This one I was kind of torn because I really like the prologue and I find it really atmospheric, but I didn't like the first chapter as much, but I'm hoping we'll get more like prologue style stuff going through. This was good, I enjoyed it, but nothing amazing happened in the first chapter, but I know that I like David Nichols, so we're keeping this. And then these two, I said this one was a maybe, and I said I'm unhauling this one. Now the problem I have is that if I ask you guys, I feel like you're gonna tell me that this is trash and that this is actually quite good, but of the two, I do prefer this one. So I am gonna do a poll or like a trash my TBR thing. It is just going to be between these 2 books. I would be happy to unhaul both of these right now, and the last time I did this with a poll, you guys were like, oh, if you just feel okay and you're not like super excited, just unhaul them. But I do know that you guys have said that this is pretty good and surprising and not what you'd expect. So the poll's going to be a little bit different this time. The question is going to be something like, what do I keep? And the options are going to be the replacement, Unearthly, or unhaul them both. So you guys will have the option to just say what you were telling me in the comments the last time I did one of these videos, which is just get rid of them. But if anybody has any particularly strong feelings about either of these, then please let me know, because I did put this in a TBR. It was for the newts, no, it was for the owls, but I didn't get to it because it was like right at the end of my TBR, but you guys were saying really good things about this. And this, I feel like I've heard of Cynthia Hand, but maybe not for this series. I feel like she is like a, I don't want to say mediocre as in her books are mediocre, but just like a mediocre in terms of being like medium well known in terms of paranormal romance. They have like Stephanie Meyer up here and like Becca Fitzpatrick, and then like in the middle would be Cynthia Hand, because I feel like I've heard of this vaguely but not really. So these are the 2 books that I may be unhauling. You guys let me know if you have any strong feelings on them. And these 3 I will be keeping, and hopefully now that I've sampled the chapter I will be able to bump them up my TBR a little bit. So that is pretty much it for this video. As I said, I wasn't feeling too well in the bath earlier, so I'm going to go and get some sleep when I've wrapped up this video. But please let me know about the 2 books that I may be unhauling. Also let me know if you like this video and whether you would like to see more, because I could just keep going through my shelves and culling stuff. Like, I have enough books to do that, and I've had some of them for a very long time. I would obviously also like to say a really big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Please don't forget that if you would like to get a 2 months free trial of Skillshare, the link is in my description box. But that is about it for this video, so please don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish body butter and candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye.
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.